Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Women in Love Seminar Series. Thank you for your patience. We are doing this a little bit different today, and we are actually on Facebook also live, so hello to all our followers on Facebook. We're so excited to have you here. And the next thing we're going to tell you is you can see all of us in the conference room. We're all going to wave at you, but we have temporarily set ourselves also with our phones so that you can see us and, of course, see our wonderful guest speaker and this amazing panel that we brought here today. First and foremost, we're going to give 1 or 2 more minutes, and your phone is going, your Zoom is going to be muted. If you have any questions, go ahead. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this phone here, if you don't mind, and that's going to create the weight. Oh, she needs a phone. So, do you have something that we can wait for Peggy?
That probably doesn't have enough weight. When you do yours upside down, are you upside down?
No. We're in the app, though. That's why. Oh, yeah. You're on the sign-in.
I'm thinking.
Okay, we're almost there. If we tried that.
What about putting this like this?
I think that's
yes, so
two does it. You need two.
We are
quantify
the
statement.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready. So, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody who's joined us today. Giving back is really important to us as a firm, but also as a woman, as a mother, as a sister, as a friend. I've been trained since a very early childhood to give back to my community as much as I could. And so today, we really do have just an amazing guest, a guest speaker, and we're supported with also beautiful women that are, and a man here, Matt is here, so he didn't want to be live on the Zoom, but he can say hello to the camera. So I'm going to start by introducing our guest speaker today. I've known Sol for many years. She's just a pure ray of sunshine, and she also has been brought up, and we'll talk a little bit about her childhood and how all her life has been influenced to give back. Sol Picon is the 2-time chair of the Women United Executive Committee for United Way and has brilliantly led a group of 57 executive members and more than 2,700 members in Miami-Dade County. She is also the principal at Hatched, a consultancy that advances the brands, the communities, and the impact of those brands and the missions of purpose-driven organizations. Soledad has held leadership roles in major organizations and served on several board of directors, including the Museum of Contemporary Art, the MOCA, Jackson Memorial Foundation, IFK International Kids Funds, United Way of Miami, and the Bass Museum, where she chaired the development committee. Born and raised in Patagonia, Argentina, Sol received her degree in architecture from Universidad de Belgrano in Buenos Aires and a specialization in restoration of classical buildings for ICCROM in Rome, Italy. I think you should join the Coral Gables board. I think, everybody that's fixing their old homes could benefit from Sol's creativity and knowledge. So Sol, we want to welcome you here today. I also want to mention everybody else who's with us. We have Sissy DeMaria, who is the founder of Give Back from Special Equestrians, Peggy Sapp, who I'm proud to say is on our board, but is also the CEO of Informed Families and the volunteer president of the National Family Partnership. And through these organizations, Peggy really has established a leadership in our community, not only locally but nationally, with drug abuse prevention campaigns, one which is very well known in our community called Red Ribbon and Lock Your Meds. So thank you for joining us, Peggy. It is really a pleasure to have you. You're always so supportive, and I'm so happy that you're here. Today, Deborah Davidson could not make it with us, but Dominique here, our CFO, filled in for her because of the fact that we are so involved with Chapman Partnership. Chapman Partnership was Deborah joined the board in 1998 She founded and chaired the Take a Walk in Her Shoes fundraiser luncheon, which has raised hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to help keep women out of the street and their children and families. So thank you for filling in. And walking in with us right now is Yisha Arteaga. You can wave at the camera and you'll join in. Yisha is the founder. You know, this is Miami. When you say 11:30, you have to say 9:30. No, sorry. Yisha Arteaga is actually I probably will cry a little bit. She is a dear friend of mine. She started her foundation as Ari Arteaga Foundation when her son Ari passed away in a car accident 2 years ago. And J.D. Arteaga, if you're a hurricane fan, we don't need to repeat who he is. J.D. and herself decided to turn their lives around, and they have founded this organization, which my husband and I are very involved with. And it engages the youth in the community, and that is an extraordinary. They're everywhere. They're in every single school. Young kids forming councils, committees, and you see this gorgeous person walking behind me. That is Sissy DeMaria. Sorry, I want to say your name correctly. Picon.
Well, the German way, I guess, is Kuna.
So I'm going to say it the right way. Sissy DeMaria Kuna. She is the founder of Give Back for Special Equestrians. Together with Dr. Heather Cole and Isabel Ernst, Sissy is a lifelong equestrian and a very good tennis player, by the way, and co-founded Give Back for Special Equestrians in 2013. This is a formidable organization if you have never heard about it, and it provides therapeutic horseback riding scholarships for disabled children and veterans in Florida and New York. I personally have a love for that organization. My niece had epilepsy. Had a severe surgery, and if it wasn't for riding the horses and taking care of them and being able to do that, she would not. Still today, she goes there, and that is her. So thank you for joining us, Sissy. I'm so happy you're here. You're there. You may want to move a little bit because you're live there. So I'm going to turn this so everybody can see you. And so I'm going to start with Sol. I'm going to let you start the talk. And thank you again for joining us. And
thank you so much. To you for inviting me, to all the women that are joining us today, and a very brave man.
A lucky man.
A lucky man, definitely. So it's for me, it's an honor to be here sharing my journey. Christine knows that when she invited me to do this, I told her, what do I have to say? And Alison, who I can see on the screen, my designated staff at Women United, she knows that I hate speaking in public, right? Because
well, you're so good at it.
We women have this tendency of always, am I good enough? Am I going to be extremely informed about this topic? Why women give is so broad. Should I have the data? Should I research? What should I do? And then I realized that, this is bigger than myself. If I have the privilege of being sitting here today and I inspire just one woman to give back to the community in any way, that's it, mission accomplished. So even though I'm extremely nervous, I say yes to Christine. I have a good relationship with Maria here next to me, and I'm very thankful to Coral Gables Trust for not only for all what you do for the community, but also for having this space for women and wealth. So thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome.
You're very welcome.
So
it is an honor. So let's talk a little bit. I want you to explain to everybody your journey. How did you start? What triggered in your life that made you so get involved with the community here? You're not from here, right?
No, I'm not from here.
So we talked about the culture gap, right?
Yes, correct.
So I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So a little bit of my story. I was born and raised in Patagonia, Argentina. I moved to Buenos Aires when I was 18 years old to pursue my passion, architecture at that time. Now I have another passion. And then after finishing my career 6 years, I moved to Italy to study restoration of classical buildings. I decided to stay there. I got a job at the Vaticano to restore frescoes, and I went back to my country to sell my stuff and go back to Italy. And what happens? I fell in love with that one. And goodbye Rome, and hello another new world. So that's very, very funny, because not only Rome was part of the history, but also the architectural part of my life. soon after we got married, we had to move to Miami, and when we moved here, actually it wasn't Miami. The idea was to move to California. Because of personal reasons, he sold his company. We decided to look for a better life. This was 1999 at the time. We came here with a family, and my father-in-law got sick here. They discovered a horrible brain tumor, and they gave him 6 to 12 months to live. So we asked him, what do you want to do? And he was like, I want to live here. I want to play golf until the last day, and this is where I want to die. And we were like, okay, we'll stay in Miami. So goodbye, California. 9 months later, he passed away, and we decided to stay in Miami because we fell in love with this city, even though it wasn't like what it is today, but it was amazing.
Recording in progress.
So what does part of this journey of mine? First of all, for a couple of reasons. One, I had to start learning English because I didn't speak a word in English. Second, we were amazed of the community, how they embrace us, with my father-in-law being sick, us not speaking the language. We had my little daughter at that time. She was 4 months old. Now she's 23, beautiful girl. And then we decided to stay for many reasons. And I was trying to be part of this community. And how can you be part of a community when you're a completely, immigrant? You don't speak the language. You don't share the culture yet. So I asked a friend of mine that I happened to meet at the pool in the building, beautiful Miami, and she's like, in this country you have to give back. In this country you have to believe in the power of philanthropy, and then you will find your tribe. So I was like, what is that? Because even though that the culture of giving in my country is different from what you do here, I have to learn what that means in this country. And I was like, okay, I can do that. So because I'm very eclectic, I do many things, and that's the architecture in my brain, I said, like, okay, I'm going to organize myself. And I said, okay, I really miss the arts, so I'm going to try to join a museum. My husband loves extreme sports, so it will be great to have connections with a hospital, foundation. I have my daughter, I have to support anything related to kids. And then I said, what about the rest of the community? And somebody introduced me to a developer officer in United Way, and I fall in love completely with United Way. So I became very involved with all of those organizations, but the passion became United Way because they support the whole community as a whole, as a one thing, and based on 3 pillars, which are financial stability, education, and health. And that, in my mind, clicked. So I was very active for 2 years with them. We can talk about the other organizations as well, but this is the organization that I like to share today. And after 2 years, I became a board member. I think I was the youngest board member that they had. I was like 32 years old.
I thought I was the youngest.
I was. Well, let me think that I was the youngest. Don't take that away from me. So I was part of the board, being the youngest member at the board, not even knowing what a board of director meeting was. But I'm brave enough, like you, sitting among all these beautiful women. Just like let me see. If I'm here, it's because somebody thought that I could make a difference. And I started learning philanthropy and the power of giving back on the field. I was super privileged. I had that privilege. So I did a lot of things. It's funny because United Way, I said, like, now I finished in 2 years of being the chair of the Women United, and now I'm like, where do you want me? Where do you want me? Just take me, wherever you need me, just take me there. So that's part of how I came to United Way. I've been involved with international initiatives, with the Women United from the day one. It was called Women Executive Leadership, and I was very involved. And I said, like, if you see my name, it's because I'm offering the 3 T's. What are those? Time, talent, and treasure. If it's time, it's 150%. If it's treasure, all that I know, all that I can give. And I have Maria here, she helped me with that. and my yeah, right. And my talent, just let me know. Where do you need me? Even if you need me here, shaking like a leaf, because it's the right thing to do. So, you want me to share more about Women United?
I want you to talk specifically about, you and I had a very, and everybody please feel free to join in because you all have different experiences, right?
Yes.
But one of the things that really enamors me to you is not just your cause, but the fact that you're on the board, but you volunteer. I mean, I would actually say that you're more of a volunteer. You're on the board, yes, and you do everything. You have these creative ideas, but your level of volunteering for a board member is off the chart. And I want you to talk a little bit about why. Why is that? I think that's so powerful.
Well, because I'm electric. I'm crazy as well, and sometimes a little bit. As I said to my ladies in Women United, I put chimichurri to everything, chimichurri. That's my.
That's your thing.
But again, it's like when I was, supporting for example, let me go back to the MOCA, the Miami Contemporary Museum. I chose that one because it was close to where I was living, and then I saw this amazing small modern museum, and I talked to the director at the time, Bonnie Clearwater. Now your father is Sheldon, right?
Yes.
We sat at the same board, and you have your father's face. And I adore your
Now I
father.
get it.
Well, no, I say that Matt is more handsome, but his dad may not agree with me.
No, I adore your parents. Like, we sat at the same board, and at United Way too, So, and I saw Bonnie there, and I'm trying to speak my horrible English. It still is, but it's going to be better now that half of New York is here. Now people are speaking English in Miami, finally. So I was doing things that at that time I didn't know that are part of the philanthropy world, like, for example, community outreach or finding new audiences. Now I have the language to talk that, right? But at that time I was like, all of my Argentinian friends were moving to Miami because of the government situation and the political situation. So they were coming here, and I was like, let's go to the museum. I'll show you the museum. And then you should support the museum. Oh, it's better for you because you don't have to pay every time you come. Just become a member without knowing, right? And then too many friends and friends from Venezuela. And then I was like, we should put together a breakfast. So I called Bonnie and said, like, let me design the breakfast at MOCA. And not only that, but I happened to go to a Starbucks, and I was always talking to the manager saying, like, I go to this museum, it would be great if you can serve Starbucks there. And I got Starbucks as a sponsor. I didn't know all this, but I was like, I can build more. I can do more because of the architecture in my head, and because I'm electric, crazy, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then we did the pot parties. I don't know if you remember. Perhaps you're too young to remember, but well, all those. And then same thing with the other organizations that I was sitting on the board. So when you volunteer, that was your question, and you know that I talk too much. It depends on what you want to do, what you want to give, and what is what is that you want to accomplish if you volunteer. It could be just sitting on a board, and that's perfectly fine. It could be being a volunteer hands-on, going to prepare the backpacks for the back to school, or to go and write letters for the nurses during the lockdown, or what do you want to jump? Well, tell me how high, and I'll tell you what you can do, right? That's it. In my case, I was all in.
All in.
All in.
That's
all
amazing.
In. Anything.
Peggy, you're all in too. Sissy, you're all in, because I've attended your events, and I'm going to put this on here so people can see. But you're all in. Tell me a little bit about, to share with Sol,
Looking at you or?
you can, whatever you prefer.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. I got active in volunteering when I was in my 20s, and I started out with Both Are, which is a great organization that supports the University of Miami's Low Art Museum. I also did a stint at the Junior League, and subsequently involved with the Young Patronesses of the Opera. And all of those are really great organizations, and I met tremendous friends, which is another benefit of volunteering, is you make great friendships. But none of those really spoke to my heart. And it wasn't until I discovered the benefits of therapeutic horseback riding for disabled people and saw it firsthand, and merged my love for horses, my gratitude for being a healthy, abled human being, that I wanted to give back. And so that got passionate and personal for me. And I think that's the difference, right? You can volunteer and be involved in an organization, but until it becomes like your passion,
Exactly.
that's when everything changes.
Matt, your passion, talk a little bit about your new role as the executive director and how this is your passion.
So, I come from a banking family, and I was, for 4 or 5 years, I was on the board of MCCJ, which is one of Miami's oldest institutions. And our mission is very simple. It's embracing diversity and building an inclusive Miami. And we do that through our programming. And I became the chairman of the board about a year ago, and our executive director resigned about 12 weeks ago. And when that happened, me and our vice chair kind of took on the co-CEO roles while also doing our day jobs, just kind of burning the midnight oil. And the board came to me and said, Matt, would you like to step into the role? And, as I was playing that co-CEO role, I felt alive, like amazingly alive. I loved my work in wealth management, so I thought I could do a couple things. I can take a leave of absence and come back to banking. And once I started looking under the hood more, I said I need to stay here longer to do this. So I went to the bank and kind of laid out my situation, and they gave me their blessing to go and do this. And they said I can always come back. And I felt a responsibility to make sure that this ship sails straight, and I find the resources to make sure that MCCJ stays alive, because our community needs it more now than ever. And, as a volunteer, I mean, I've been a volunteer since I was in my mother's stomach. And
I was gonna say,
and I was lucky. Like a lot of kids are voluntold, but I feel like I was voluntaught by my parents, and I had really great mentorship from my parents, and I had great mentorship from a lot of the community leaders. And I cut my teeth in Miami philanthropy with Christine when I was basically a baby. At 20, in my early 20s, we helped start the Barton G. Kids Here Now Foundation. And it was pretty cool learning about kids with cochlear implants and explaining it as a layman about, amniotic fluid in babies' ears and how we create miracles and causing kids to that under normal circumstances would be signing, but they speak just like you and I, just from a cochlear implant. And learning that process of starting a foundation alongside Christine was amazing, and it helped me with my trajectory. And also United Way was also huge in giving me the skills to be where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I remember the first time they showed us a video. I don't remember in that conference room where they showed the video of a little baby, hearing for the first time. I don't think there was not one dry eye in that conference room.
No.
It's spectacular.
And then I had the opportunity to see that in real time, to see kids hear for the first time.
Yes.
And for them to hear their mother's voice for the first time,
it was
incredible.
Amazing. Yes. Isha, you're all the way over there, but I'm going to bring my camera. This is like improvising. I'm so thankful that everybody's here.
I tried to log on, but it wasn't working.
Here you go. This is this beautiful young lady. So Isha and I, a dear friend, talk about somebody who turned her life up, like I said, her son, Ari, who's obviously present. I always feel him very present when you walk. Passed away in a car crash not far from, she was at a friend's house and not far from our home. So, but her and JD, and it's you, Isha, you have turned this around, and you talk about volunteering and being with the cause. I want you to talk a little bit of your experience and how I think one of the things that I want you to highlight is Isha is in every single school. She engages the youth like I've never seen anybody, from private school to public schools. This youth, the kids create their own committees inside of the schools of the Ari Arteaga Foundation. She established the Be the Light Foundation, which is attached to it. At every single event, you've got Be the Light. I get shivers just by hearing it. So go ahead, Isha, tell us a little bit about your experience.
So, I was always volunteering from a very young age. I was involved in helping the seniors at the age of 9, and that made such an impact in my life, and it was so rewarding at that age.
Yeah.
And I still remember that moment very vividly. And then, growing up, I continued to do service, and then it becomes more of the you have to instead of you want to. But I remember that moment, and so I felt like I needed to give the same to my kids. And so, yes, the school requires them to do a certain amount of hours, and the school requires them to, you know, do direct and indirect and blah, blah, blah. But I always would take them, and I'm like, don't give me the letter. This isn't about what you have to do. This is what we have to do as human beings, as a community, not because the school is requiring it. And so, yes, I wouldn't collect the letters, and a dear friend of Christina and myself, Michelle Gonzalez, she does the same with her children. And so we would take our kids together and have dinner with foster kids and, you know, be together and have some fun times with special needs kids. And it's just teaching our children about care, true, compassionate, considerate care. And that we're all people, and that, you know, sometimes we need to step forward and not have them come to us. We need to go to them. And just how important that one-on-one personal relationship is with each person, whether it's special needs, whether it's this person. And my son and daughter are very comfortable doing it. You know, they can be with foster kids, they can be with special needs kids, they can be with all ethnicities, all ages, and just be very comfortable. So when Adi passes, the kids, his friends, were like, where was it that you would take Adi to do service? And where was it that, you know, because Adi would tell us about these places. You know, before Adi would go to a party, and my daughter, it's like, we have service to do, or we're going to go have breakfast or dinner or lunch or whatever with the foster kids. And then you can go in and do your thing. So his friends were asking, you know, he always made it fun. Like, it wasn't work to him. Oh, I just want to, like, have, you know, dinner with foster kids and then go to this thing. So the kids were very involved in this process of the Be the Light Club in our schools. They started it. They're like, we want to do that. We want to start what Ida used to do. And so it was about inclusivity. It was about stepping in for the little guy. It was about that we're all people and that we need to do this. This is, you know, we're adults and we do it, but you guys need to do it not because the school tells you, because it's our responsibility. You know, everybody's like, how can I help? How can I help? In your backyard. The foster home that we would attend was less than a mile from my house. So it's not that far, you know. There are kids that are homeless in our schools, in our public schools, in our private schools, and you would never know it unless you put yourself forward and make sure that this person is okay. So I always taught my kids, reach out. If you see someone asking, you know, acting different, are you okay? Is everything okay? You know, good. Or just somebody that cares. So that's why we started the Be the Light Club. And it's yes, bringing these kids together. Kids are very vulnerable, especially teenagers. You know, they're too cool for themselves, and I like to break that barrier. I'm like, I want you to be silly. I want you to put yourself out there and not care about what anybody's thinking. It's not about that. Life is about being authentic and being true to yourself. And when you do that, you can give so much more to everybody else. Special needs, you know, our impoverished children in our community, the homeless. And I've had some leadership programs where they've attended and they're like, I never knew that we have teens in our school that are homeless. I'm like, yeah, you would never know.
Can we talk, and it's a very specific example, so, again, every time I can't control my tears, it's terrible. But anyways, it's tears of joy, because I'm so happy you're here. So first of all, I want you to know that Dominique is a foster parent and has adopted foster kids. So you want to talk about somebody who embraces and walks the talk? Our CFO walks the talk. And I'll let you follow up. But just quickly, a few months ago, I'll just tell you the story, which was amazing. Isha and JD have also started a scholarship program for those children that are in need, right? And so they put them in different schools, and they actually have two kids right now, a young girl who's at Lourdes and another one who is at St. Thomas, St. Teresa, I'm sorry. And so we are all part of a chat, right? And we're all praying all day long. We're prayer warriors. If somebody is ill somewhere in Miami, we prayed for your grandson. We posted, you know, she had a little preemie grandson. We were doing prayers for her grandson. Yesterday or 2 days ago, somebody else posted somebody who's ill. So it doesn't matter. We don't care who it is. I'll just post on the chat, you need to pray for this person, boom. And the next thing I know, I get 40, 50 messages of amens, and that's the power of community, right? So we get a request to help bring furniture to a family who, and so when Isha posts the address, my husband says, okay, I have a couple of twin beds, let's take him over there. When my husband gets there, he calls me up and he goes, Chris, you have no idea where this family lives. It was so bad that the little boy who's 7 years old, the mom doesn't even want him stepping outside of the door. And my husband was in tears. And Victor doesn't cry easily, but he came back and he called Isha and he said, Isha, I know my wife has been involved with you and tries to support you, but I want you to know that to me today was life-changing. And that's why you give, I think, because it's life-changing for me. Barton G was a life-changing experience for me. When my niece tells me I go horseback riding every weekend and it saves me, that's life-changing. When you in United Way, I go to, a bar and they're giving 300 bags of food. I take off my shoes, I don't care if I don't have socks on, and I bag the bags. Why? Because I get home and I tell myself that I've really accomplished something. Dominique, talk a little bit about your foster children and how you got involved with that.
Yeah, so I do fostering through 4 kids from South Florida. We're actually now going to get back into it, so we're very excited about it. But a few years ago, when I had just recently gotten married, my husband and I, we had rented a condo, which we had 2 bedrooms. And we were at church one day, and they talked about fostering, which I had never heard of before. And they asked the question, if you have an empty room out there, just, share it with a child. So my husband and I, we walk out of there like, oh, do you think we could do it? No, we can't do it. We don't have kids. We're not experienced. So anyway, you have to go through classes to be a foster mom and dad. And so we went through the classes, and it was the same concept. You walk in, you're like, you know what, this is not for me. Then you come in, a family comes in with a foster child, tells you their struggles and what they go through, and you go, you cry, and you're like, you know what, this is for me, we're going to do it. So you get your license, and they start giving you the placements. You first start babysitting foster kids because you can't just babysit a foster kid. You have to go through specific background checks. So we babysat a few kids, and that was really scary because it was really like an eye-opener how much work kids really are.
Especially when they're not yours originally.
Especially when they're not yours and they don't have no respect for you whatsoever.
My mouth means nothing.
Oh, yeah, no. So then during that time, I got to babysit a little girl named Sophia, who was in the foster care system for a while. She was 3, and she had been there since she was 1. So it's already been 2 years. Her mom's case still was going back and forth, and her dad's as well. And so I babysat her. We bonded really well. It was only for a week. She went back to her foster family because her family had to go somewhere. So we finally get our little girl, Malia. She's so beautiful. I mean, she was just such a happy little girl. I was like, how can this be a foster child, And we had her for 7 months. Her dad, who was never in the picture, they ended up finding the father, so she was able to go to Hawaii. And it was a very heartbreaking moment because it made you realize you have to give this children back. The reason why you foster is not to keep them, is to make sure that they get unified with their parents, God willing, right, if they have a good home. So she ended up going to Hawaii. The dad, I still talk to them. She calls me Auntie Dominique, which is really awesome. So during that time, we stopped. That was really heartbreaking. And then they called me about Sophia. And so I said, I don't know. And they're like, yeah, she'll be a great fit. I said, sure, no problem. So I got her, and she was just a lot of work.
Sassy.
Very sassy, but she was very angry. A lot of the foster kids are very angry. They hold a lot of anger in. And a few times where she would be in her room throwing everything, she would bang her head on the wall. I'm in the other room on my knees crying, God, I'm trying to do something good and I'm about to kill a child. How am I going to get through this? And she would only do it when my husband wasn't home. That's how you know children try you, right?
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, as a foster parent, you have to go through constant classes and making sure that you're getting trained, and ChildNet, who's the organization who's in charge of the city, making sure that the child gets placed in the right home for kids, that organization is more for the foster parents. They give the foster parents the support that they need to be a foster parent. So they give you, like, prayer is a big key. It's a very Christian-based organization. And a lot of the support that you need, that sometimes they're so focused on the kids, but the parents also need that support during that time, because you're also doing visitations with the biological parents. You want to support that as well, letting the child know, we love you, but your parents also love you very much.
There's all these different components.
All these different components of fostering that you don't realize until you're actually in the picture. And it was just a rewarding experience, unfortunately and fortunately at the same time. Her mom was never able to get her little girl, and her dad, just the drugs were too strong. Drug is a big thing in the foster care
We're gonna get to you, Peggy, because that's amazing.
And so drugs, a lot of these cases are drug related. It's very sad because the parents, when you talk to them, as a foster parent, you actually do get to talk to the biological parents and get to hear their story. And a lot of it, the drug addiction is so strong that they can't get out of it as much as they try. Her father, he was clean for like a good 6 months, and the day before he was about to get Sophia, he relapsed.
But now positively,
So now
comes to the
positively,
office in her modeled outfit, because we have a change of outfit.
So then, of course, the opportunity came to adopt her, and we of course did. She was very excited to be now in Alexander, and it was really neat. She actually just graduated a few days ago from 5th grade, and her kindergarten teacher was actually there, and Sophia said her name, and the teacher goes, "Wait, weren't you Rogers before?" She's like, "Yeah, I got adopted." She started crying at the graduation, like, I'm now in Alexander. So it has been a very rewarding experience that Sophia now has come to us and says, "Hey, I think we should start fostering again because I want to help kids that are in my situation."
Nice.
And it's really neat. She actually is able to tell in her classroom who are foster kids and who are not, based on how they sit, or just overall the presence. So Sophia is actually wanting to foster now, so we're very excited about that. I do want to add one more thing, though. Peggy, a few months ago, had brought in, she started a family dinner. Favorite table time. And so I did it. She showed me some of the programs that we do, so we did it. And it was very interesting because during that family table time, one of the rules is definitely no electronics, is just sitting together with the family and talking. And when we did that, Sophia actually opened up about how she was feeling about being an adopted child, and how she's so grateful for what we've done, and yet she still doesn't fully understand why what happened to her. So we still practice that, and it's very rewarding to talk to your kids and just put the cell phones and everything, even the TV is also an electronic, aside, and just talk to them. But Informed Families definitely helped out because we were able to put a collage together for her during that time with her family's pictures, because I don't want her to forget. And I want her to, whenever she does decide to go out there and find her family, I want to be part of the process. So it has been very rewarding, and we're excited to start again soon, God willing.
So that is a great transition to you, Peggy, who Informed Family for so many years has helped kids, parents, brothers, sisters. You want to talk a little bit about your journey, how that started?
Just quickly, trying to figure it all out, because we started in 1982 with Nancy Reagan, if you can imagine that, and I sort of thought that somebody knew exactly what prevention was, and the people who really started it, the Reagans actually had children who were experimenting with drugs, so they came on board because they really wanted to be on board and make a difference. And so I got into it through the Junior League, and I said something like, "Oh, sure, I'll have one meeting." Well, ladies, I've been in the same meeting for 40 years. But because we keep talking around it, but when you talk about teaching people to be their authentic self, teaching parents to be authentic, and we sort of live in a time, I think, where we're plastic. Well, that's really not what kids need, and I saw a thing with, Smith College, they asked, what was the greatest gift you'd ever been given, and all the surveys, they said, my grandparents, and then they said, well, why is that? And they said, because they gave us time, they taught me to fish, they taught me to bake a cake, they taught me to do this, they taught me to do that, and so, with Informed Families, and having said that, we started with 6 volunteers, and now we really are, nationwide, but, I guess the one thing I would say that's a little different, because we got involved with government, because, they say follow the money, where was the money? The government had the money. So, when we were starting to get our first grants at the Florida, legislature, Elaine Bloom, it's interesting how women come into your life. She was a representative or a senator, and she said, let me just tell you, do not go up there and ask for this money unless you know the budget. She said, because they're all going to say to you, oh, I just love what you're doing, and they're not going to give you, but I don't know how I would fund you. And she says, when they say, but I don't know how I would fund you, you say, line item number 6, blah, 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 blah. Well, that is just the truth, and it's very difficult, because everything is hidden in the government, and you pass a law, for safe and drug-free schools, you think, man, we have passed the law. Then it goes over to the bureaucracy, and they start putting in, oh, you can't do this until you do that, you can't do the other thing. So it's so refreshing to hear you all just talk about, you're just people with people, and that's how Informed Families is. And so we finally have gotten it down to, like, we do 4 major campaigns a year. We do Family Day, which is eat dinner with your children. And believe me, I'm from older parents, and so my mother is spinning in her grave saying, you have to tell people to eat dinner with their children. Is that crazy or what? So, and of course, the people say, oh, well, I ate dinner with them on that Monday night, but it didn't work, or something, and so you have to keep saying, well, this is the fun thing you do, or like we have a chore chart. And I think the chore chart's going to go off the wall now, because one of the deans at Stanford has just written a book called How to Raise an Adult Child. And what does she talk about? Chores. What are chores? Chores bond you to your family. It means you're supposed to work on something. Something that I think is sad is we have a mentality now that we want to give everybody everything. Not sure that's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing.
Everybody on the team gets a trophy, not the one who works.
Right. Yeah. So we've watched some strange things happen. So that's Family Day, and then the Red Ribbon, of course, is huge, and that started because of the DEA agent who was killed in Mexico.
Yes.
And so then Lock Your Meds. Now, here's something about ladies. In 2008, we started Lock Your Meds. So that was way before, because we knew what was coming down the pike, and that's been very successful, and that's the opioid campaign, and that's about prescription drugs. And then the one that we really have trouble with is Safe Home Smart Parties, because, see, we are a culture who want to drink, and so we're conflicted about what to say to our children and how to do that. And so we do those 4 campaigns, and woven into that we have the little tools, but the tools are fun. And they're meant to help you. Like, how many meetings can you go to and hear the same things? Like, it was probably a good thing that I knew nothing, because with the junior league, I went around to all the treatment centers, and I said, well, tell me about this, because you think that you're going to go through the treatment center and then you're recovered, right? And I said, well, why is it 30 days? They gave me this blank look, and they said, that's what the insurance will pay for. Well, that's not the answer, but that's the society that we're built on, is if you can't pay for it, or you can't code it and get paid, then it's not worthwhile. And I go against, I'm so glad to see you all, because I feel like I go against the grain a lot with the government. And then here's one of my best lines, and it's the truth. The best social worker I know is Walt Disney. We're all the same. He brings us together. People go up there. They don't get all hung up on, and I think that's what's really neat about Miami. Miami is a welcoming city. I'm from Virginia and Maryland. That's a different kind of thing. My husband was born here in Miami. So Miami is different, and I love it. You either love it or you don't, but it's very welcoming. And, I'm delighted to meet all of you, because you're really making a difference, and now I know I'm not all by myself.
Right.
Being beat
No,
up
you're
by
not.
the government.
Well, for me, and I want to introduce Roxanne. I met Roxanne actually at a luncheon at Vizcaya. She was sitting at another table, but you know me.
Social butterfly.
Social butterfly,
You're
walked
great.
over.
You're great.
And I actually saw somebody who was going through a very difficult time. Her husband recently passed away, and it's my nature, just the way I am. You know, if I see somebody that's suffering, I'm probably not going to talk to anybody else and speak to her. When I started talking to Roxanne, I realized that she had spent her entire life giving back and had, as a philanthropist, been involved in so many different organizations, new to Miami, but you want to talk a little bit as we wrap up about your experience with philanthropy and how you got involved and how it's, you know, it's so touching and how you want to continue. That's why I brought Roxanne, because I wanted her to meet everybody here, because she has a lot to give back to the community, and that's what we want.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You have been a really wonderful friend. Appreciate it.
Okay, next.
It's true. All my life, probably because of specific circumstances, but when I graduated from college, I really didn't want to do any of the things that you're supposed to do when you're a girl and you graduate from college. You know, be a social worker, be a teacher, and get married. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to do that. And eventually, I found myself in investment real estate, and nobody wanted to hire a woman. And so there were just so many times I could interview and be told, well, you know, we really don't hire women. I mean, can you imagine a man coming in and wanting to talk to you about an investment? And I said, well, yes, I actually have a few clients that are men, and they seem to be quite happy. And they said, yeah, but can you imagine a woman coming in and asking for advice from a woman? And I said, oh, gosh, maybe not. Maybe they would want to talk to a man, because I was as brainwashed as they were. Eventually, I found my way to be able to work for a large investment real estate company, top sales. Every year I was there. And I suddenly began to realize that there was this, not just a glass ceiling, but there was a glass cube that you were in. It didn't matter which way you were knocking. It looked like you could go through, but you really couldn't. And so a group of us decided we were going to change that. And we created the International Women's Forum. And San Francisco, where I lived at that time, was the second organization to be able to begin to be part of this very large now, like 6,000 women in the world. And it was for women who were the top producers or in executive suites and things like that. And we began to see that if we bonded together, we could make a lot of things happen, which we couldn't make happen when we were sort of on our own. And from that, we were very successful. I was very successful. It gave me a platform. I was the first woman in the country to sell a mid-rise building, but I was like weird, you know. I mean, I wasn't like part of the crew. I mean, and at one point, after I was married, I went to a lunch, and I heard about the most important thing we can do in the world is to educate girls and women. And that just put me over the edge. I came home, said to my husband, I am going to retire from doing investment real estate. I am going to evangelize educating girls and women everywhere. And I was passionate about that. And it was a lonely road. I was introduced to Save the Children. The international school system was the first school to insist in international village schools that girls be included with boys. This is revolutionary because if girls had to walk very far to school, they would be raped. And so you needed to have schools very close to where the villages were. And I spent 10 hours with this guy. He unraveled all the obstacles and all the things that kept women from being able to move forward. And as all of you have said, you know, you were in 100%, 120%. And about the same time, I had been asked to join a board at Harvard called the Women's Leadership Board, which underwrote all public policy research that would enable women to break this, you know, the ceiling, and enable women and enable organizations to understand what was going on that was keeping women back. And really the work that we did was unbelievable, and I became the chair, and of course, my passion was educating girls and women, and so the university sort of didn't get it, and then finally they got it, and there was tremendous movement because Harvard places people all over the world. And one of the things I began to understand about my philanthropy is that, and I so respect what all of you do, I wanted to change systems. I wanted to
Still
change.
do want to change this.
I do. Because I think that it's wonderful for people who have this wonderful ability to connect at a deep level with people. I'm not sure I have enough energy to do that, and my mind keeps driving, well, why do we have to do that? Why don't we just change the system, right? And so I had a family, I still have a family foundation, but I had a family foundation, and so I did a couple of things. I was invited to the Clinton Foundation, and you have to pick a project when you get invited. And I decided to pick waste pickers, who are the poorest people in the whole world. These are the people that collect the cans or live on the dumps. Every country has them. And the poorer your country is, the more people you have who drop through the cracks and they end up at the dump. And so to me, the system was, they were a social project for the World Bank and the United Nations and all the development banks. And I saw them as entrepreneurs. And I wanted to change how these 60 to 80 million people live by taking the skill sets that they have and proving that they actually, in their heart of hearts, they got up every morning, they did the work, it's what they did every day, had to initiate. I was able to convince the development banks that these were entrepreneurs. And there is a manual now for anyone who wants to do development around dump sites or whatever. What do you do with all these people? And since they don't have an upward mobility because they'll never have enough money to buy land or to do certain things you need to do, we actually did an experiment with Coca-Cola, who funded us, to prove that they really were entrepreneurs. And at the end of this particular clinic, so I guess you could call it, the Coca-Cola and the supply chain and the waste pickers all decided that they had had a very successful experience. The woman who turned up to be the head didn't know how to read or write. She did not know how to do math. She learned how to keep the books for the little group. And at the end, when they were talking about what they were going to do in the future, the supply chain guy said, well, let's celebrate. This has been so exciting, so successful. Let's have a party. And the woman, this is the woman who lives on the dump, says, yes, this has been great. We'll bring the cake because we are partners now.
Yep.
And you look at that kind of a transformation, it not only transforms you, but I mean, you just think, oh my God, this is great. This is going to be a whole new life for all these people.
You should bring that up to the city here in Miami because, I mean, for me, I get very emotional when I talk about things, as Sissy knows. She is like my Christine Breeze. I just had a lunch with a politician. I almost reamed his neck because, homelessness needs to end in South Florida. Enough is enough. We have enough connections between the Marlenes and the George Perez's and everybody here and David and all these developers to make it happen. And we all go to these fundraisers and, I talked about that day, and we all do this and all do that. And I'm like, enough is enough. We have enough power as women, right, Because I think that, I mean, if my husband was here, he'd probably, I think I'm sometimes more powerful than he is, emotionally and strength-wise, right? We have enough power to make a difference, and all of us that are sitting here, and thank you for joining us. I know some people have hopped, off, and some people couldn't join us, and Samaria Hudson couldn't come today because she had another meeting, and Christy's house, Altman couldn't come here today because she had another meeting, but, I'm at the point right now that before the end of the year, I'm gonna get 60 of these top women in a room. I
That's
talked
right.
about doing it, you introduced me to Erin, and her new office is in Coconut Grove. I'm about to say, we need to resolve this today. We cannot leave here and have 2,000, 3,000, or 11,000 people that are about to lose, that you and I spoke about. It needs to stop, and it's about the system. So we're wrapping up. This has been great. Of course, all of you are hoping to join me at lunch. I have a table at Suka for us, those that are on Zoom. I'm sorry that I can't invite you all, but I promise that we will do a very live event coming up at the beginning of January of 2022, the Women in Wealth Seminar Series. I made a promise to somebody. I made a promise that I would do this with 200 to 300 women, and we're going to do it. And we're going to talk about different topics. I don't want to talk about finance. I want to talk about everything else that makes us who we are today. And when you're all of that, then you can financially leave a legacy and be stable. So I want to thank you. You came and you started.
There's one of the most amazing things that this city and being involved in philanthropy is the opportunity to meet amazing women. I'm like, wow, blown away. I'm like,
and Matt, that I adore. And Allison, who hooked us back together. Allison could not make it today. Allison is, of course, the executive director of the Miami Jewish Health Foundation, who does so much work as well.
And just to wrap it up on my end is, I think philanthropy for women, why women give, is not logical, it's emotional, because we've been talking about what got us at the, and that's it. So,
and to give, find your cause and give. And I know that everybody sends emails and everybody wants you to give, and when I invite people to fundraisers, I'll always get a text, but you invited me like 3 months ago, and I'm like, well, I'm inviting you again. And if you don't give, then I will give for you. I don't care. I mean, the point is find your passion.
Absolutely.
And
your tribe, as I always say.
Yeah.
And your tribe, and love them hard.
And find what makes you tick. I say, and people don't like me to say that, but
well, I share that giving comes in many forms,
Yeah.
and like I share with those that say, okay, how can I get involved? Funding is one.
Yes.
Advocacy is another, and your time. Choose. You can do all three. You can do one. You can do two.
Yes.
But it's different for everyone. So, but there's always room to give at one of those capacities, and just find the one or the many that you want to be involved in at a certain level. So giving is even your time of...
The Dalai Lama said that the Western woman will change the world, and he was talking about us, women.
Well, I think,
and Barbara Bush said, some people give their time, some people give their money, some literally give their blood, but everybody has something to give.
Absolutely.
So on behalf, I'm just going to turn the camera very quickly. Well, you can sit with me together. On behalf of all of us here at the Women in Wealth Seminar Series, for those that are on Facebook, hi, I know that many of you are joining us there. We are honored that you're here. We hope you have a great summer. We will see you in the fall. We'll pick up the Women in Wealth Seminar Series in the fall. I want to thank every single one of you. Some are mentors to me, others are friends that are becoming mentors to me also. We love you, God bless, and Sol, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
What fun,
That's
right?
the measurement. How do you quantify that? It was fun. We had a good time.
I